Hello, my name is Steve, and welcome back to American Steam Legacy. Here's a question for you. What do you get when you take a perfectly serviceable Baldwin-built consolidation, delete the pilot truck, graft on a six-coupled engine, rework the boiler and associated plumbing, and reinstall the pilot truck? Well, the short answer is the rather unusual 2680 wheel configuration, and while only two of the 40 locomotives of this type were converted consolidations, they became known as Baldwin Mallet Kit locomotives, since Baldwin not only originated the type, but also provided a rebuild package where a railroad could convert a consolidation into a Mallet at a much lower cost than buying an actual Mallet. When the type first appeared in 1909, it apparently showed some promise, prompting one publication to claim that a greatly enlarged power capacity can be had with a comparatively small outlay for new material. So the 2680 was intended to save dollars, but did it make sense? We'll take a look, coming up next on American Steam Legacy. When Baldwin introduced the 2680 in 1909, only four railroads decided to give the unusual wheel configuration a try. The Baltimore and Ohio and the Erie each rostered one, while the Alabama Great Southern owned three. But the Great Northern appears to have had the highest hopes for the type. Between 1909 and 1910, the Great Northern would take delivery of 35 Baldwin-built 2680s. The Great Northern would also commit the greatest resources to improving the performance of the unusual wheel arrangement as well. The Erie and Baltimore and Ohio locomotives were converted consolidations. Erie selected an H-22 class 280 for conversion in 1910, while the Baltimore and Ohio chose one of their E-24 class consolidations in the following year. These two conversions are what earned the 2680 the nickname Mallet Kit locomotives. Baldwin's key selling point was basically Mallet power at a discount. Baldwin offered a six-coupled engine, boiler extension, and all the necessary hardware as a package deal, and the Baltimore and Erie machines were the first and only roads to try it. The term Mallet was applied to the type because it utilized compound steam distribution. The Baltimore and Ohio consolidation was a Burnham-Williams product of 1901, and the Erie consolidation was from the same builder in 1905. In 1909, Burnham-Williams would be incorporated into Baldwin. Since the H-22 and E-24 delivered similar performance, it comes as no surprise that the conversions compared favorably as well. The Baltimore and Ohio 2680 retained the 56-inch drivers and saw a boiler pressure increase from 190 to 205 psi, while the Erie carried over its 200 psi boiler pressure and 57-inch drivers. The post-conversion performance was similar as well. The Baltimore and Ohio variant developed 39,000 pounds of tractive effort, while the Erie example produced 43,300 pounds. These two consolidations would be the only example of their type rostered by their respective railroads. The Baltimore and Ohio 2680 struggled with slipping due to the unequal traction, while the Erie found theirs to be inadequate for the Susquehanna grades which it was intended to climb. The Erie would convert their 2680 back to a consolidation in 1916, with the Baltimore and Ohio doing the same the following year. The Alabama Great Southern gave the 2680 a try about the same time as the Erie and the Baltimore and Ohio. While driver diameter and boiler pressure were identical to the converted consolidations, these locomotives were specifically designed to have this wheel configuration. The road received its first 2680 in 1909, with two more arriving in 1911, all three built by Baldwin. And while the Alabama Great Southern never converted theirs back to consolidations, they were passed from one subsidiary to another like a hot potato. They were transferred to Chicago, New Orleans, and Texas in 1914, then passed on to the Southern Railway in 1917. Apparently the Southern found them to their liking and kept them in service for 18 years until scrapping them in 1935. While other railroads only dipped their feet in the water with the 2680, save the Alabama Great Southern, the Great Northern made a much deeper commitment to the type. In 1909, the Great Northern received 10 2680s from Burnham-Williams and 25 more from Baldwin in 1910. All 35 locomotives shared the same boiler pressure and driver diameter, but the 25 Baldwins were slightly modified versions of the Burnham-Williams locomotives. The number of boiler tubes was increased from 275 to 395, and the superheater was enlarged by almost 100 square feet of heating surface. These changes resulted in a 15% increase in steaming capacity, but the boiler pressure remained at 200 psi. In 1911, the Traveling Engineer Association cited the 2680 as being economical to operate and inflicted less shock to the train since both engines didn't slip at the same time. However, the association did note that they were slow and becoming unpopular with trainmen since one engine was now doing the work of two. The 2680's lack of speed prompted a major rebuild in 1926. All 35 locomotives were converted from compound to simple steam distribution. Since the boiler now had to feed two engines instead of one, major changes were made there as well. The length of the boiler tubes was increased from 15 to 24 feet, the firebox was slightly enlarged, and the superheater surface area was nearly tripled. All told, the steaming capacity was increased by 55%, and boiler pressure received a modest increase to 210 psi. Needless to say, the cylinder diameter for both engines was changed accordingly, with the front engine cylinders reduced to 23.5 inches, down from 35. The result was a 34,000-pound increase in tractive effort, 107,600 pounds total, but the adhesion factor fell to a rather slippery 3.57. All of these changes taken together should have produced a reasonably good engine. However, in spite of the higher speed and greater tractive effort, the number one complaint was the rough riding qualities of the simple 2680. At speeds of 25 miles per hour and above, the vibration was so bad that one engineer commented, "I could barely even keep my shoelaces tied." The bad ride quality was attributed to the oversized counterweights on the 55-inch drive wheels. Running in reverse was only slightly better. The lack of a trailing truck meant the locomotive would meet switch points and rail joints head-on, resulting in a sharp jolt. All 35 rebuilt 2680s would remain in service for 3 years. Between 1929 and 1931, the Great Northern rebuilt 22 of them into 282 Mikados. The remaining 13 would remain in service until being scrapped between 1949 and 1954. So what's the verdict on the 2680? Was it a more economical approach to compound articulated power? As far as the converted consolidations are concerned, the answer is no. The Erie and the Baltimore and Ohio quickly saw the shortcomings of their lone 2680s and elected not to pursue the type any further. The Great Western's experience with the type was a bit of a mixed bag. While the 2680 performed satisfactorily, the only real complaint was the slow speed of the compound variant. However, whatever cost savings the type may have provided was quickly wiped out and then some when all 35 were simpled in 1926. The fact that the road elected to rebuild 22 of them into Mikados only 3 years later raises further questions on the viability of the 2680. The Alabama Great Southern seems to be the only success story, with theirs serving 25 years without a major rebuild or conversion. While the 2680 may not have been the economical alternative in articulated power it was supposed to be, whether purpose-built or a converted consolidation, it is an interesting footnote in the history of American railroads. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And once again, my name's Steve, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.